Hello, and welcome to our online demo of ODG Mobile Pro, Evidence-Based Medicine on the Move. I'm going to use my PC and the web browser Apple Safari to access ODG Mobile Pro. It's a web application, so you can access it from any device with an internet connection and a WebKit-enabled browser, whether it's a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, desktop, or PC. The first thing you want to do is bookmark the site, odgmobile.com. and then select Bookmark, Add to Bookmark, or Add to Home Screen, and that will give you an icon on your desktop that looks just like this WLDI logo. When you click on that or tap on that, it will open the ODG Mobile Pro application like a native app. And you can log on using your username and password, which you'll get from us upon subscribing. The home page gives you a brief description of the product. We've targeted the high-value, high-volume, high-velocity ODG content for ODG Mobile Pro, including 3 existing modules and a 4th one forthcoming. Those are the procedure summaries from ODG treatment, the return-to-work guidelines, and the drug formulary. Starting with treatment, this is a great and powerful way to access the ODG treatment guidelines. We have a switch first that will allow you to display only those treatments that are recommended or everything. Let's start with everything. Browse by chapter is the closest thing to the current web version of ODG, where it lists the chapters alphabetically, and there's about 18 of them, which tend to be based on body part, with some exceptions. You can go ahead and tap on one, like low back, and that will open a list of therapies, every different therapy that might be considered in a workers' compensation setting for low back disorders, including different treatments and physical medicine modalities, and diagnostic and imaging tests, and medications, and surgeries, and anything you can possibly imagine. And you can scroll through it by clicking on the different letters here or using your touchscreen to tap along. Let's go to an example. First of all, I want to point out that we've translated the recommendations into icons here. So the little green checks mean it's most likely to be recommended. The red X's mean it's more likely to be not recommended. And the caution signals are an indication of under study. In addition to that, we also have these blue icons, which tell you if a given patient selection criteria or treatment plan should be followed. Let's look at manipulation. I'll open it up, and you'll find several options are presented. If you're used to the web version of ODG, then it's the full summary you've seen before. This is a comprehensive summary of all the evidence on a particular therapy, and our objective with ODG is to be as comprehensive and evidence-based as possible, and that's why many of these can feel a little bit overwhelming. But we've covered every topic, including with manipulation, relevant points such as number of visits, studies on patient selection, and active versus passive modalities, current research, and so on. You'll notice these references are hyperlinked in, so when you touch on any one of them, it will open an abstract of the study that supports these conclusions. The nice thing about ODG is it's completely accountable. Every recommendation is tied to the evidence that supports it, and you can see that evidence base is kept updated on an ongoing basis. Now again, this is a little bit like information overload, especially for a small device screen. Well, the beauty of the mobile application is that we parse the content, so we give you a recommendation statement that tells you right away, is this an option for a particular injury? Low back, manipulation, recommended. And then it shows medical evidence shows good outcomes. Next, we give you the criteria. If you specifically want to know how much to approve and if there's a patient selection criteria, that can be found in the ODG criteria section. So we give you the most important pieces up front, but you don't lose a thing. We give you that full evidence summary word for word as it appears in the web version of ODG for those users who want more detail. In addition, we also link the evidence in this format. When you touch on evidence, you'll get a list of all the studies that support each recommendation, and they're in order of their ranking. The 1A is the highest quality, 11C is the lowest quality. You can touch on a study, and it will take you to an abstract where you get identifier information along with the conclusions. In addition, the PMID number is here with a hyperlink. If you touch on that, it will take you to the National Library of Medicine, where that abstract is stored in full, and you can order a full text copy of the study if you want. One reason payers and providers like ODG is because not only does it give them a guideline for determining medical necessity, but it keeps them abreast of the latest research in their specialty. It's been estimated that providers would need to spend enough time to read 19 articles per day, 365 days per year, just to stay on top of the science in their specialty. And that would leave exactly 0 time for patient care. Well, the beauty of ODG is we've indexed it, interpreted it, and linked it in for you. So each recommendation is linked to those evidence summaries, and you can get those at the tip of your fingers. We also link you over to the Return to Work module, and they've been mapped by procedure and by body parts. So when you pull up manipulation for low back, the Return to Work results are those conditions for which it might be considered. You can click on any one of them, like a displaced thoracic or lumbar intervertebral disc, and you get the name of the diagnosis code, a short description, and then the return to work summary and best practice guidelines. Based on an aggregate of over 10 million cases, the largest lost time database in the world. The summary guidelines are strictly data-driven to give you kind of a range of what to expect, mid-range being the median, at risk being the 90th percentile, 2 data sets, one being claims. Those are cases that are out past the waiting period that are lost time or indemnity claims, and 2 being all absence, including not simply the claims, but the incidental, the medical absence, and the sick leave as well. Then you get your best practice guidelines that are more case specific. They look at severity, treatment, and type of job, and allow you to match each case up to one of these pathways to get a more definitive value. There are some neat tools and tricks within the treatment module for pulling things up and searching the guidelines. The advanced search is very powerful. Let's say you only wanted those treatments that are recommended. You could make that switch to on. Let's say you're a surgeon and you only want surgeries. Well, you can see you have a number of different categories to choose from here, and you'll see what they are. I'm going to select surgery. Let's say further that I'm a knee surgeon. Well, I'm going to zero in on the body part knee, and now I'm going to hit Advanced Search. And that will give me all the treatment modalities that are recommended under some circumstances that pertain to surgery of the knee and leg. Let's pull one up, meniscectomy. And again, you'll get a recommendation statement that tells you it is recommended for symptomatic meniscal tears. The criteria under which it's approved is as follows, and it's a simple selection criteria. But, of course, if you want that full summary, you can access it by clicking on Full Summary, and this is verbatim from the published version of ODG on the web, updated in real time, the complete guidelines on meniscectomy. And you can touch on a study to get an abstract of the studies that support these conclusions. Let's say you want the return to work guidelines for meniscectomy. Well, if I click on return to work, now I'm zeroed in on those diagnoses that would apply. And here are your return to work guidelines for meniscectomy. Let's say I'm a doctor and I want to do a meniscectomy on an injured worker. Well, I want to send a pre-authorization email. I can do so right from the ODG application. I click on email. The first field is within the form is an address, and I've got in my settings the default address set to my own. You could put in an insurance carrier's address. You could put multiple addresses like your own and the insurance carrier's and maybe a colleague in the field. You can change these as well if you want. If I wanted to adjust that, I could, but within the settings you can put those people that you're most likely to be emailing to. You can also put a particular user node here. Let's say I'm requesting meniscectomy per ODG, details below. You have the option of adding the full evidence summary, or by default, it's going to send the recommendation statement and the criteria. You also have the option of including all the evidence. If you want to bury them in evidence and say, look, these are the studies that support my recommendation, you can add them. Let's leave them off because I think the point is made with the recommendation statement and criteria. ODG, the name ODG carries enough weight that it isn't necessary to include all that evidence in most circumstances. You have an optional claim information form, and if I click Show, it will give me the option. Let's say I want to designate this email as a particular type, and the options are request for pre-authorization, request for concurrent review, or request for reconsideration of denial. From the provider side, as a payer, you can choose approval, conditional approval, or denial. Let's call it request for pre-auth. Let's say the claim number is 12345, and let's say the injury date was 2011, January 13th. Maybe I don't know the patient selection criteria, maybe I don't know the social security number. That's okay. If you don't have information on a particular field, you're free to leave it blank. You can type in only those ones that are of most interest to you, your insurance carrier, and your state. Maybe I know the expected treatment date is going to be January 21st, and maybe the let's see, physician name is Dr. Smith. National provider identification number as follows. You also have the option of typing in the facility name, type, and NPI along with the state and zip, but of course you can leave these blank if you prefer to do so. In addition, for multi-visit services like chiropractic and physical therapy, you can type in the number of weeks and number of units and visits and so forth. This is a surgery, so I'll send it as is. And sure enough, my pre-authorization was sent successfully. The beauty of these emails and these pre-auth requests is that not only will they come with the designated information that you key in, but they will come with the ODG guidelines. So from this point forward, every treatment request and every utilization review decision that you make will be backed with the strength of ODG. And we'll look how that email looks in just a minute. Now, another neat thing about the treatment module is that you can actually filter by text. So let's say I want to turn these filters off for now, and I want to look at particular treatments, not just those that are recommended, but all of them, that might apply to physical therapy. Well, I could simply type phys there, and it's smart enough to know that it'll give me every request that pertains to physical therapy. Now, let's say I wanted to narrow this list. Let's say I wanted only those therapies that had ODG criteria. Well, here's a checkbox that will actually show me just the ones that provide a specific patient selection criteria or treatment plan as identified by this blue box. Well, let's say now I want to widen the list. I'm going to take this off, and instead of just giving phys there, I want phys or there. Well, now it's going to give me any one that might have either one of those words within its procedure summary entry, and it's more comprehensive. It's highly intelligent, highly intuitive, and very touchscreen friendly. Now, let's look at the Return to Work module, and you've actually seen this because we jumped over to it from the treatment module through the integration platform. However, you can also look things up by diagnosis code or keyword. Let's say the code we're interested in most is 847, and I'm going to hit submit. And now I've got all my back strains and sprains, and I can open the lumbar to see the return to work guidelines for lumbar, or maybe I want the neck, and I'll find them as follows. Again, you get the name of the diagnosis code, a short description, and your return to work summary and best practice guidelines. The neat thing, too, is that you can email these return to work guidelines. And you can type in your user notes. Let's say Jane Doe expected back to work on February 18th. You go ahead and send. And there you have it, email successful. The third and final module before we release the UR Advisor is the drug formulary. And this is a great resource because drugs are covered throughout the ODG guidelines, be it in the chronic pain chapter or the mental chapter or the diabetes chapter or the low back chapter or the knee chapter. So we've indexed them all within the formulary here where you can scroll through them looking at brand and generic name indexed together by default, or you can jump ahead using these buttons. I'll jump to the O's for OxyContin. Let's pull it up as an example. And then you'll find within the formulary it gives you both the brand and generic name, indicates if there's a generic equivalent, gives you a cost for a typical dosage of therapy, and indicates the class. And then lastly and most importantly is the status column, which indicates if this is a first-line treatment in ODG. And status N means it's not. In addition, you can touch on any of these brand or generic name links here to get the full summary from the procedure summary of ODG treatment where that topic is addressed in detail, and it gives you the evidence that supports that recommendation. In this case for OxyContin specifically, or if I touch opioids, I can get the full summary for opioids in general, and you can see they're covered in a lot of different topics: criteria for use, opioids for chronic pain, for neuropathic, for cancer pain, screening for addiction, and so forth. They're covered in great detail. The nice thing, too, about the formulary is it also allows you to search not simply by drug name, but you can also use classes. So if I jump over to class, it'll give me a list of the different classes that are covered, and I can scroll through them or jump ahead. Let's say I want to go to the O's for opioids. These are the different opioids that are covered throughout the formulary. Some of them are yes drugs, status Y, some of them are N. But in each case, it will link to the supporting evidence within the procedure summary where that topic is addressed in great detail. Another neat thing about the formulary is that you can also apply filters. So, for example, let's go ahead and look at the drugs, but use the filters. We want to see the brand names only. So I'm going to switch to name. I'm going to open filter, and I'm going to say, just give me the brand names. And maybe I'm in Texas where they adopted the formulary by rule, and that specific rule states that all N drugs need pre-auth. So maybe I just want to see the N's. You can also further filter by ingredients or name, as well as whether or not there's a generic equivalent and a maximum cost. We'll leave it at brand names only, N drugs, and I'll hit submit, and now I have my list. Actique, for example, being one of them. And of course, again, you can touch on the name of the drug to get the full summary from the ODG treatment guidelines. So that sums up the look at ODG Mobile Pro. Now let's go take a look at the emails that we sent. Just a minute. So if I go over to my inbox, I can see those emails that have come in now. The first one is a request for pre-authorization for claim number 12345. First thing you see is the user notes. Then you see the claim information that we typed in. We've designated this a request for pre-auth. Here's the claim number, the injury date, the patient name, and the expected treatment date. My name is the physician, and my national provider identification number. The nice thing is that all the fields that you populate will come through, and those that you leave blank won't. So it won't hinder or look odd like a lot of stuff is missing. The email will come from you when you sign up for a subscription of ODG Mobile Pro. All the emails that you send will come from you, and replies will go to you at your inbox through your email server. In addition, the subject will be designated as the email type and the claim number if that information is filled out. Otherwise, it will identify the ODG treatment guidelines that are delivered. And last but not least, it will back every one of your treatment and UR decisions with the strength of ODG by citing that criteria within. You can also see when we jump over to the return to work guidelines, or first before we do that, each email that you send will come with your contact information and the signature. And that's the information that you provide when you sign up for ODG Mobile Pro, and you can edit it too within the settings. Now let's look at the return to work guideline email. And similarly, it's from me to me because that's who sent it and that's where I sent it. The subject is the return to work guidelines, and my user notes are first. Jane Doe expected back to work on February 18th per ODG, and those guidelines are cited within. So this is essentially how the Mobile Pro application works. It's very intuitive, it's very intelligent, and it's very touchscreen friendly. It's an excellent way to access the medical treatment guidelines from ODG, including an intelligent advanced search as well as the typical browse by chapter. A great thing that people often like to see is hospital length of stay. So let's say HOSP LOS. Let's go to all words and let's search. And there you have your hospital length of stay. You can also deliver the return to work guidelines by ICD-9 code or keyword. And lastly, the drug formulary with the UR advisor coming soon, currently expected for fall of 2012, and subscribers will get it without having to download anything. You'll get all the updates automatically. Orders can be placed for ODG Mobile Pro at our website, which is www.odg-disability.com, where you can link into more information on ODG Mobile Pro. Subscriptions are $149 for a single user on an annual basis, or $99 for existing ODG subscribers. It is backed by our unconditional satisfaction guarantee, so you can use the product for a full 30 days, and if you decide for whatever reason you don't like it, you can give us a call and we'll refund your money in full. The guidelines themselves are updated in real time and accessible via any device with a WebKit-enabled browser, including a smartphone, a tablet, a Mac, a desktop PC, or any Windows application. Thanks so much for your time. Please feel free to give me a call with any questions. You can reach me or our ODG help desk at 1-800-488-5548.